everyone, and welcome back to Girl Dad. I'm Abigail Frechette,
And I'm Peter Frechette.
and we have a very exciting guest for you today. But before we do that, quick sports time. Go England! Hopefully.
Yeah, who knows? We'll find out. By the time you hear
Yeah.
this, you'll know if they're still alive or not. But we're
Yeah.
we're
We're
putting our
recording on
best out for them.
Wednesday, so we
Um,
don't know, but
so we'll
hopefully.
see. And break up the Red Sox.
Yeah.
The All-Star break has hit, and the Red Sox won 9 in a row before the All-Star break. They're back in the hunt for a playoff spot. It's all is right with the world.
Yeah.
What could be better?
What could be better?
By the time
Um,
hear this, they'll probably have lost one or two,
It'll
and
probably be all over and we'll be crying, but it's fine.
no
So
problem.
moving on, we have a great interview subject today. We got to speak with our friend Jim Shea, who is a managing director in global real estate at JP Morgan Chase, which is a really fancy way of saying that he worked on that really big, cool building, 270 Park Ave.
A building
And
that you can
is
see from pretty much any corner of
Yeah.
New York City, and and I've sent him many pictures of, oh, look, there's your building.
I know. And I feel like I should probably stop now,
Yeah.
but that's fine. Because I see it a lot. But yeah, so we got to talk to him about kind of his path to how he got to where he is now, and the building itself, and it was a great conversation. So we'll send it over to that now. So we are now joined with Jim Shea. We're going to start off with kind of the path of how you got to where you are now. Could you walk us through that a little bit?
And
Sure.
I know
Great to be
your
here.
time is limited, so keep it brief.
Yeah. You don't want the long version? Uh, Thanks for having me here. Great to be with you both. I went to university, and I got a degree in engineering. I studied civil engineering with a focus in structural and thought I wanted to do bridge engineering and realized that there weren't that many new bridges. I didn't want to spend the rest of my life investigating bridges in Pennsylvania. So I looked into going into a different way, looking at structures for buildings, and I actually started my career in New York at a great place called Thornton Tomasetti Engineers. And I actually got to combine one of my passions with work where when I started, I worked on stadiums for the first 4 years of my career.
Oh,
So I
wow.
worked on the San Francisco Giants baseball stadium, designed the Coke bottle and platform out there in one of the entrances. And then I actually started working out in the field. I moved to Boston. I worked on Gillette Stadium. Then I moved to Detroit and worked on Ford Field. And then I moved to San Diego and worked on Petco Park for the Padres. And that's the right order, by the way. You want to go to Detroit, then San Diego, not the other way around. And so it was great where I got to do something that work on things that I was passionate about. I also learned a lot about not only the field of engineering, but I started to get exposure to the field of real estate, and the
Mhm.
structure is pretty cool and obviously very important. But when I would leave these projects, when the structure was done, I realized there was so much more to follow. And I really
Yeah.
wanted to get more into the completion aspects and work end to end on a project. And when I was working in San Diego, I started working with this company called Hines, who's an international real estate developer. They were representing the Padres as basically their project management. And through working with a couple of people I became very good friends with to this date, I got to see what project management was like, and they got to be on the full end-to-end delivery side. So I started looking into that. One of the architects that I worked with over the years was kind enough to introduce me to my second boss, a great man named Tom Farrell at another developer called Tishman Speyer. So similar to Hines, international real estate developer, and they were scheduled to be the project managers for the Yankees as they were planning Yankee Stadium. And so they hired me to work on that. And as a lifelong Yankees fan, I mean, talk about a dream come true. Before the stadium started, I think it was one of my first iconic projects other than the stadiums where I got to work on Tishman Speyer's redevelopment of the observation deck at 30 Rockefeller Plaza. So they call it Top of the Rock, but they
Yeah.
reopened the observation deck at the top of what is one of the world's more iconic buildings in Rockefeller Center. Did that for a year. To this day, I hope that's the hardest project I ever get to do. It was an absolute labor of love, but it was really, really hard working in this great 80-year-old landmark asset and trying to open up the top of the building and do elevators and make the observation deck. As that project wound down, I was getting really excited to go to Yankee Stadium. My boss called me into his office and said, "Hey, Jim, I got a great opportunity for you. I want you to go downtown and work on Goldman Sachs' new world headquarters." And I said, "Tom, I really appreciate you saying that like I have an option. But I am looking forward to this opportunity. So thank you." So I went down there, and my wife Kylie will tell you that it was right when we were getting married. We didn't have any kids yet, and I told her I'm going to work in this Goldman building for a year and a half tops. I'm going to work on the structure, and then I'll go do something else. Maybe I'll get involved at the end of Yankee Stadium. And 6 years later, we finished the project, and I wound up working on that one end to end, and it was really probably the best thing that happened to my career. It got me into commercial real estate, which is a great industry. It allowed me to work on the project cradle to grave. I went from a structural project manager to, at the end of the day, running the project management for what we call the core and shell side. So really the building structure, the systems, the exterior skin. And then one of my counterparts did the interior fit out. But the project in of itself, it was Lower Manhattan, right next to the World Trade Center site, started the development right after 9/11. So just the center of so much important work going on in the city at the
Yeah.
time. Goldman committing to that site was really the catalyst that got the World Trade Center redevelopment kind of back on track. Um, we, that was a great building, 2 million square feet, really, the biggest thing I had worked on at the time, and just learned so much about city and state agencies and working at a bank in a corporate environment. Great project, great engineers and architects. So really, I like to say I got my third or fourth master's on that one. So I went to Lehigh University undergrad. While I was working in Boston, I got a master's in civil engineering and structures at Northeastern University. And then jokingly, when I worked on Goldman, I learned more about insurance and city agencies and contracts that
Yeah.
it was great. So I worked on that for better part of 6 years. Then I worked on two other Goldman projects where they had a development, a new, effectively a headquarters project for them in Bangalore, India, and then they were planning a European headquarters in London. And through that work, got a bit of a bug to travel and wanted to work internationally. Thought I was going to move over with Tishman. I was still with Tishman Spire, but thought I was going to move over to work on this Goldman project, and that wasn't panning out. At least the time frame wasn't great. So I started to explore other opportunities, and I got introduced to um, who would be my third boss, at a company called Multiplex, which is a Brookfield company. So Brookfield's a massive company, and they own a lot of other companies. Multiplex is a construction company that they own. They're started in Australia. They moved to the Middle East. Then they moved to London, United Kingdom, and got introduced to my boss there, Ash Muldoon, and they were looking to grow the company, and he liked the idea of bringing in someone different mindset, a developer's background, an owner's mindset that would help them grow the company. And so took a chance on me. Our family took a chance. We moved to London. Our kids were 3, 5, and 6 when we moved to London.
Wow.
When you all visited us a long time ago now, it
Yeah.
was 2013.
That's
Oh,
crazy.
And it
wow.
was it was a great opportunity, and we did. We grew a company from $200 million in revenue to 1.2 billion in revenue in 4 years, which was arguably too fast, but learned a lot about a whole different side of the industry, a different market, moving to London, very international city, which was great and a great time to be there. There was so much work going on in London. And we were there for about 4.5 years when it was time to move the family home. The kids were, we either need to stay for a long period of time and commit to that or come home. And it was the right decision to move home. And 8 years ago, last week, I started my current job at JP Morgan Chase, which was just an amazing opportunity, right place, right time to join an amazing firm who had this idea of building a new corporate headquarters right in the middle of Manhattan. And so my first day on the project was 8 years ago when we interviewed the architects, which was very serendipitous. We opened the building, and you all took a tour last year. We opened the building in August. We moved everybody in by the holiday period of 2025, and we're finishing things up as we speak. But that's my journey in a long-winded nutshell. Sorry, but
No,
No,
that was
that
great.
was fascinating.
And we're gonna get into that building a lot in a little bit, but I want to ask first, do you have like a preference of working for, because you work for JP Morgan Chase directly now. Do you have a preference of doing that, or did you like kind of doing the more contracted out work that you were doing before?
Um, I I loved what I did with Tishman Speyer, but it's always better doing it when you're the owner and direct and you have more
Hmm.
decision making. And so when I was at Tishman Speyer and we were doing Tishman Speyer projects, that was great. When we
Hmm.
were secondant to Goldman, we did amazing work and it was a great experience. But ultimately, they're the decision makers, and
Yeah,
you may not agree with every decision, and you kind of have to bear it. You're not an employee, so there's a little bit of a nuance there about just you're kind of put out in an island in this other group. And
yeah,
in my current role, which I love, being owner is always the best. If you can control things and make the decisions, that's always good. And you realize a lot of people rely on you for decisions. And you realize that a lot of people might not necessarily agree with or understand your decisions, but you have a job to represent your firm and do what's right for the firm, not anything else. Um, but but what I've tried to do in my current role is we built our team using all of those experiences, whether it was an on-site engineer kind of getting beat up on on those projects, or being part of the project management team for Goldman, or even working as a contractor. I'm a big believer in team building, and we were given the opportunity to build this team in a certain way. We were given the resource to take care of the construction workers as much as the project workers. And to the best of our ability, we tried to make it one team, one dream. We even had branded gear that said Team 1270. And those things are kind of corny, but when you do things with intent, you get really great results.
yeah,
And so we put a lot of intention into the team building all the way down to the workers, because at the end of the day, the workers are building our new home, and we tried to treat
absolutely.
them as our partners. We took care of them a lot. We would have a lot of meals during the year. We had Italian ices on Fridays during the summer. Jamie Dimon hosted numerous worker events, worker appreciation events, including when we opened the building in the plaza on Park Avenue. We had a lunch for 1,200 workers and their families. Jamie had said during the course of the
Awesome.
project, "You're all going to come back. We're going to throw you a party, and you can bring your families." And he is someone who is as true to his word as anybody I've ever met. And that was awesome to watch the interaction. Our operating committee showed up, but just to hear people say through the course of the last years, "We've never been treated this good," was just high praise.
That's awesome.
And so we get to do fun stuff like that when you're the owner, and it helps
Yeah,
that, you know, the firm is very successful. But the firm, it's a mantra. If you're going to do something, do it the right way. And when you make mistakes, you fix them quickly. But it was all about trying to take care of the people who were taking care of us.
yeah.
Um, just, I mean, we, as you said, we've been there, but um, what are some of the highlights of 270? Because it's it's almost indescribable from my standpoint anyway. I mean, it's an amazing place, but if you had to pick sort of four or five things that stand out to you, what would they be?
Sure. Well, I will say when we started out in the journey, we were going to build a building, and where we wound up was building this truly great thing, and it's great for our employees, it's great for our clients, it's great for the city, and we are committed to New York City. We were founded in New York City 227 years ago, and I'd say that the first thing that I would say is your first experience of the building is when you come up to it, and intentionally, the building is raised almost 100 feet off of the ground plane to create amazing public space at the base. It's a very, security is paramount to our firm. We're the only ones in it, and so it's not really open to the public. But we did a lot of things to make it part of the public realm and part of the community, and that's important to us, whether it's our Chase branches and small business that we do. We are a community bank at heart. We're a really big one, but we get to do things in the local communities that we're in that are good. So, we've made significant contributions to mass transit and the public realm around. But by lifting up the building, you created a great plaza at the front entrance on Park Avenue, and that's akin to Seagram's Plaza down the block. There's 40 feet of circulation on 47th and 48th Street. We didn't just come straight down to the property line and have really crummy, only 15-foot wide sidewalks. They're 40 feet wide. There's a lot of space. And then we had one zoning requirement that required us to build a 10,000 square foot privately owned public space. They're referred to as POP spaces. If you go around our neighborhood in Manhattan, which is Midtown East, you'll see pockets of them everywhere. Most of them aren't great. They're not really accessible. Pele Park is probably a very good example of one. But zoning would have had us put it right in the middle of the site, which didn't make sense because it would break up the building. So we went to the city and the community board, and we had a really positive relationship with them. We said, let's do something great. Let's move the park to Madison Avenue, and let's create a genuine public amenity. We own and operate it. It's 24 hours a day, open to the city. But let's put it there. Let's break up the retail wall. It's immediately adjacent to the entrance to Metro North and now the East Side Access Grand Central Long Island Railroad connection. So it's a massive public thoroughfare right there. There's a coffee kiosk. And what you'll see when you go and look at the park, on the walls that are adjacent to the park, there's the first of 5 commissioned artworks for the building. This one's done by Maya Lin, who's this great American artist. She did the Vietnam War Memorial. She just opened up something at the Obama Library. The 2 rock walls that are adjacent to the park are actually a 3D laser scan of a rock cropping that she found on a walk in Central Park. And she said, wouldn't it be great if we can bring that part of nature into the middle of the city? So the rock walls are New York City granite. They actually have irrigation systems in, and they're living walls. They're planted. They're a 3D laser scan of that rock cropping, kind of blown up into 220 pieces of individual stone. It's kind of set like a stone puzzle that weigh between 1,000 and 10,000 pounds each. And it's a living wall. There's a reflection. There are reflecting pools at the base, and they complement the park beautifully, and they are a genuine gift to the city. And that is something that was important to us. The city loved the idea of it, and our firm has this great art and history collection that David Rockefeller started when he was running Chase. And so that's the first of 5 commissioned artworks that we were able to put in for the building. And so that, I would say, that whole public realm experience was really intentional, really meant to create great space around the building and have people use it. And also by raising up the building, what you'll notice when you walk, you have a true visual connectivity between Park and Madison now. You can see through our lobby. You can see other works of art inside the lobby, whether it's the 2 Gerhard Richter paintings there or the Norman Foster flagpole in the middle of the lobby. That was by design. The transparency, the ability to truly see through from Park to Madison, gives it a beauty, an architecture, an openness, and a welcome. Whether it's you're walking in around the side and you see people on weekends, pressing their face against the glass to look in, which is very cool, or when you just walk into the building that first time and you see this great 50-foot ceiling and a really big, beautiful lobby. There's a lot of things that were purposely done around the base of the building to create that first experience.
What were some of the challenges of putting the building where you did?
So the best attribute of 270, why we are where we are, it is the best. You'll hear Jamie say it's the best location, the best city, and the best country in the world, and feel very, very strongly about that. The most challenging part of the building is its exact same location, and that 80% of the building is over 2 levels of trains that go into Grand Central. And so we really don't have a basement, and the heroic architecture and structure that you see coming out of the base and the fan columns are really driven by where we could build new foundations below, which was effectively working with Metro North Railroad and the MTA, who are great partners, to come up with a scheme where we would take two train tracks out of service at a time, remove the platforms, go down into bedrock, put in our caissons, build our foundations, the shear walls, in order to create structure for a building that is 3 times the weight, twice the height of the old building. So old 270,
Oh my
we,
God.
one of the bigger challenges was just moving out of and demolishing the old building. So 270 Park that was there was a late 1950s building, the Union Carbide building that had been home for us for a while, but it was outdated. It was a 1950s building that was designed for 3,000 people. We had over 6,000 people plus guests in there every day. So didn't have enough washrooms, didn't have enough elevators, poor ventilation systems, very, very small floor to ceiling heights. It really was not a fit for purpose modern headquarters building. And so Jamie made the bold decision to rebuild in that site because it's the best location. And maybe we undersold how complex it would be. But we moved everybody out in 2018. We safely demolished the old building, which was a great stat. We did 2 million hours on just the demolition of the old building and did it without any safety accidents, which is amazing.
That's awesome.
We built the new foundations while that demolition was happening. So there's a lot of sequential work. And the rule books in New York weren't necessarily built designed for any of this. This is the world's tallest intentional demolished building. So we had to work really with the city and the Department of Buildings to kind of walk them through our plan and to get them and to get the railroad quite frankly comfortable that we could do this safely in the middle of New York City, which we did do, and it's because we have great construction and design partners. Um, and so that complex underground network that no one will ever really see or appreciate, inclusive of that little East Side Access project, which was connecting Grand Central and Long Island Railroad for the first time ever, happens to end right underneath the footprint of our building. So not only we were working with Metro North Railroad and their trains, we were working with the Long Island Railroad and the East Side Access project to build out the concourse to access Grand Central underneath our building. And so all that happened, 3, 4 years of work that was going on simultaneously. But it has all now come together. The mass transit shed is open, the Grand Central concourse is open. Midtown is thriving. Park Avenue is probably the busiest real estate in the country, if not further beyond. And so it's been great to have that partnership to make it all come together and really help be a catalyst of, a little reminder, we did a lot of this during COVID too. So we were the only ones around for a couple of years, which was helped, de-risk things maybe with the city being quieter, less people around. Certainly it was a little safer, but we were also a big part of reviving New York in the post-COVID world, and certainly this part of the city is doing very, very well from a commercial real estate perspective, but that also then goes into the restaurants and the bars and all the things that make cities great. So that was the biggest challenge is working over the railroad and with the railroad. But again, we developed a great public-private partnership with the city and with the railroad in order to make these things happen. And it just shows that when you commit to something and you commit to working with people and doing it the right way, you can do great things. And it wouldn't have been possible without their partnership. So we're grateful to have it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I think New York is such a special like city. Obviously, you've talked about working in London, but I think there's something about, I don't know, like I've obviously seen your building from a lot of places within the city. So, and I've also seen your building, lit up for the Knicks and different things like that. So I'm kind of curious, like, what that feels like to be a part of something that's now like officially a part of a changed New York City skyline. Like, what is that? Is there like an emotion behind that? Obviously, I'm sure you're proud, but yeah, just kind of walk me through how that feels.
Great questions, and something that I've been able to reflect on a little bit of late, and particularly with things like the Knicks, or we, had a hand in the SpaceX IPO, and we put a spaceship on the outside of the building. One, it's I've never seen a building kind of do this before. Maybe there's been some event spaces like a stadium or something that are, spaces where people get together and they're public and you celebrate them. This is an office building at the end of the day, but it's become a thing. We've gotten great press, which is always a big worry. You do something this big and this bold, you hope it's well received, and thankfully it has been.
You made it
Uh,
all the way to the Girl Dad podcast. So
I mean, that's it. I've officially made it. I know that. And so, I said earlier, we set out to build a building, and through this journey, it's just gotten better and better. And that is, all credit to Jamie and the commitment that he had to staying in New York and doing something that was really, really hard that a lot of people told him not to do. And then, the operating committee members were all intimately involved and helped us design each part of the building. And it truly is the sum of all parts. And we hoped it would be great. I think the greatness will be the test of time and what comes after it. There are other buildings being planned that will be taller, that will be bold. Maybe they'll be better, but they say imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, and that's a true statement, and you take it. So there's many different levels that I think about it. The contribution that's made to the city is great, and the skyline, and that is something that you can always point to. And I think my my family's probably sick of hearing it, but they're also really proud, which is very cool.
Yeah.
yeah,
But
absolutely.
I would say then you look at how our firm now uses the building as a tool, and we're going to try and capture some of that ROI, but whether it's attendance is up, whether it's how we use it for IPOs, we host clients. It's got a really great buzz about it, and to watch the firm use it for business cases and use it more than we could ever expect. We're a really big company, and to see our ability to contribute to the good things that our company does is amazing. And then
Yeah.
you look at the city and the real estate industry, and you think about what comes next, and more buildings are going to go on. And, New York was struggling, and now New York's coming back to life, and people can see the value of it. So those are all different ways that you kind of look at you're leaving a legacy, or you're part of a legacy,
Absolutely.
which I would say probably better to say it that way. Um, and that's it's just all, like I said, you didn't expect it when we started. I remember standing during the demolition of the building. I think we were like on the 47th floor, and we're like, good Lord, this is going to take forever. Like, I'm not sure I got it in me. And then, 8 very fast years later, in particular, the last 2 years have been a blur. Um, but it's just great to see it come to life. And then you're kind of on to your next thing now, and we're moving on to other things. But it's cool to, like I said, to see it, to hear other people talk about it, and certainly haven't been part of anything like that before.
Before
Yeah.
we talk about what's next, I do have a follow-up question to sort of what Abby was talking about with the Knicks. How do you determine what lights are on and what the colors are? And because we've seen the variety that's available and what you could do at the top of that building. And just, I mean, do people buy it, or how does that work?
Yeah, again, something that have and part of the reason why the building I think has come out so well is Jamie would always tell you sweat the details, and everything that we did, we kind of agonized over every decision. And the lighting at the top of the building, there's two elements to the lighting. There's the lighting of the bronze cladding, the frames, if you would, like the diamonds and the vertical columns. And that was really part of completing the architecture, right? And that was if you see the building at night when the lights are off, it doesn't look finished. And so that was one thing that was kind of an easy, we're going to do those lights because it's part of making it, just look elegant. And that was a big thing. Elegant was a word that we really reflected on a lot. We didn't build a modern, it is a modern skyscraper, but it's almost harkens back to the Chrysler building in Rockefeller Center more than it tried to be new and contemporary.
Yeah.
And so most nights the lighting at the top of the building is it's an LED array. It's not a TV screen. There are LED lights within each window frame. And because of the size and scale of it, it allows you to do visual depictions of things. So when the Knicks won, not only was it the Knicks colors, but we put the Larry O'Brien trophy in there as well. So it's a very powerful tool. Most nights it's an artwork by this great American artist, Leo Villarreal. Leo is a lighting artist. And so this is quite the campus. It's 3 football fields worth of light at the top of the building, or 4 football fields, 4 sides. Um, and it's an artwork called Celestial. It's a very slowly ever-changing light sculpture that is an algorithm that Leo writes. And it's really meant to be a modern day version of a Chrysler building in terms of lighting. And what it's meant to do is connect the ground and the sky in this passage that he calls celestial. So, I think it's I'm obviously biased, but it's a beautiful, soft, not in your face art sculpture at the top of the building most nights. And then Jamie also, marketing and branding, and the building has become a thing. So lean into it. Let's do it more. And that's our tower. And so he and Jen Peepsack, our COO, have developed this calendar of vignettes through the year where we're going to celebrate things that matter, whether it's Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, all the federal holidays, the 4th of July, we not only had the American flag up, but then we had a firework display that went on during the Macy's firework display. We did the ball drop on New Year's Eve. Um, so we'll celebrate the federal holidays. We'll have some fun with things like St. Patrick's Day and Valentine's Day, and then we've used it a couple times now for different business purposes, whether it was the SpaceX IPO or we did another one last week. And so it'll develop, and we're not trying to be the Empire State Building, but we will do things that matter to the city, the country, and the firm. And again, just another cool thing that I get to work on and continue to develop. So stay tuned. There'll be more things ahead. Might be something for the U.S. Open, the World Cup. We put the soccer ball up during the World Cup games, and we had a cool one when the U.S. was playing. Unfortunately, they went out earlier than we wanted, but we'll probably do something Sunday to celebrate the winner.
Yeah,
So it's pretty neat. Another fun thing to do.
very
I know
cool.
you have kind of a heart out here. What is next for you?
So I get to stay involved in 270, which is great. I mean, first things first, I'm staying with the company, which is great. I really loved my time at JP Morgan Chase. I'm a big believer in the firm and what we do, and I've through this project have just been so fortunate to have access to our senior leaders and just hear what the firm does and what it's all about. And I just happy this went well and happy they want to keep me around. So I get 2 things to keep me busy now. One, I'm still involved in 270 in the operational side of 270. So we have 1,000 people in the building every day that makes the building work for the 10,000 employees and the 2,000 clients a day that come. So I mean, it's like Grand Central every day there.
Yeah.
But those 1,000 employees do the safety and security. They do all the food and beverage services. They run our client centers. They run the building itself, the engineers and the maintenance folks. And so it really does take a village. And so I work with those teams day to day to make sure that the building is doing what it needs to do to support the business and their needs. And then the building is obviously a big part of our Manhattan story and our campus. We have thousands of offices around the world in a couple hundred countries. We house over 300,000 JP Morgan Chase employees a day and 75 million square feet of real estate. That includes 5,000 Chase branches. So we're a really big real estate company that happens to work for a really, really big bank. And so we have this regional model, and Manhattan is now our region. Now I'm going to look after all of our properties in Manhattan, which now include not only 270 Park, but we're redeveloping the building adjacent, 383 Madison. We've bought 250 Park Avenue with plans to do something there, but we're going to create a little campus for ourselves in Midtown. We're going to call it JP Morgan Plaza. And it's part of a wider real estate strategy in New York that involves our people in Brooklyn and Jersey City. So it's great that I get to move into more of a real estate role, not just a project development role, and get exposed to more of the business side of our real estate, which is great for me, something I haven't done in the past, but certainly uh, a great next step in my career journey and getting more involved in the real estate industry. And if you haven't figured out, I'm pretty passionate about the real estate industry. I think it is a great industry, and a big reason why it's a great people industry. It does take people every day to make it work, whether you're building buildings, operating buildings, buying, selling, transacting. It all involves it all involves people. And so, truly blessed to be where I'm at and to have that to look forward to as my next step.
That's so great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
This is a lot of fun. Thank you. You let me talk about me for 40 minutes. That's
Well, you made it so easy.
well, I've been kind of focused on this one thing for 8 years. So if I
Yeah.
can't talk about this intelligently, then I might not have made the journey this far. But always fun to talk with you both, and it was truly a lot of fun to bring you and other family and friends around.
Absolutely.
To show off what we get to do. We don't get to do that every day. But that's also been a really cool part of it, is to take people through and show it to them, and just put some context to what I babble on about all the time.
Well, you should be really proud of it because it really is an amazing building. And thank you very much for joining us.
That was a really good interview. Thank you so much to Jim for joining us.
It really is an
Um,
amazing building.
yeah. One thing I wanted to mention, we didn't have time to talk about with him because, like we said, he had kind of a hard out. But besides the building from the outside perspective, I wanted to, when we got to go in and see it, one thing I was really impressed with was the care they put in for the people who work there. There were a lot of features that I felt like, I guess I was surprised to see from a company like that, like a bank company. Um, and I think, one thing was, high ceilings. They talked about how, or he talked about how, like, their floor heights, like the height of the building with the amount of floors it has is like incorrect, quote unquote. And then
Yeah, you would
just some of,
expect that you would expect a building of the height of that building to have a lot more floors.
yeah, but they wanted to give more space on the trading floors and things like that, so it's less claustrophobic and all of these kinds of things. They also have like this great communal areas that are just really welcoming. I
Well, they
think
have,
are
have
great for
food
clients, but
courts.
also, yeah, they have a food court, which I think is, a lot of buildings have food courts, but this was like, it just felt a little more like cozy in a weird way. Like it still is corporate, but it feels like, oh, this would be really nice to come and work here.
And the
Um,
interesting thing I found
but
about the
yeah.
food court was, I mean, they have a lot of the sort of brand name food distributors,
Mhm.
like a Chipotle or something like that. But the people who work at those stores are JP Morgan employees. They're
Yeah.
not Chipotle employees. Everybody who works in the building is a JP Morgan employee, which I
Yeah.
think is kind of interesting.
Yeah, 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 definitely. And you wanted to mention also one of the pieces of art
Well,
that he talked about
Well, he
a little bit.
mentioned the flagpole and which is in the main lobby. And the one thing that I found fascinating about the flagpole is, I mean, it's inside, so you have
Yeah,
no um, weather factors that deal with the flagpole, except this one does. They actually track the wind outside and can somehow get it to affect the flag. So the flag will actually blow in the way that the wind is outside, which I thought
yeah,
was kind of cool. And the art, he mentioned how important the art collection is, and it really is amazing to
yeah,
see the art that's in the building.
yeah.
So thanks again to Jim for filling us in about the challenges, and he is rightfully proud of that building.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a really cool thing to have worked on. Um, yeah, it was great and very glad we got to talk to him. Different kind of thing for us to do. So very
Absolutely.
fun. Should we do a smile of the week?
Yes, I think we should.
Okay, you want to start us off?
Well, now I'm trying to remember what my smile of the week would be, and I can't. I probably it's I think it's wrong for this to be my smile of the week, but I don't think I did it last week, and I should have,
Oh,
um,
okay.
which is Noah Khan. Um, going to
You
see
mean what the
Noah.
whole podcast was about
Go,
last
I
week?
know, but that was such a great smile of the week that
Yeah,
seeing Noah Khan in the rain with your mother wearing a
yeah,
poncho completely wrapped around the front of her face. That was my smile of the week. I don't think that there's anything that could
Yeah,
bring me more joy or a
that
bigger
was really
smile than
good.
seeing that image. So
That
that will
was
be
really
my
good.
smile of the week, even though it was last week.
No, that was great. My smile of the week was I am also the editor of our family newspaper, and I have been putting together the next edition, and reading everyone's submissions and putting them together has been quite something. Really excited for those of you in the family to read. But yeah, there's you guys are funny. Good for you. um, yeah, so that's probably my smile of the week. That's been good. Oh, actually, I have a second smile of the week. This is a shout out to a business, which unfortunately only works if you're in New York. Um, I recently signed up for a flower subscription from a local business called Botanical Brothers, and they will send you flowers as often as you like. You can sign up on their website. And they are some of the most beautiful flowers I've ever gotten from anything like this. Like the name says, it's two brothers who do this. I believe they're British and all their flowers come from Long Island, but they like do the arranging. It's like really cool. But you should check out their website if you live in New York and are interested in getting some flowers. Or I think you can also like if you have someone you want to send flowers to in New York, I think you don't have to do a subscription. Like you could call them and send some flowers over. But yeah, they're great company and wanted to shout them out.
Excellent.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us. If you have any questions for us, if you have someone you would like to us to interview, if you just want to say hi, you can email us at.
GirlDadPcast@gmail.com.
Other than that, we will talk to you next week. Bye, Dad.
Bye, girl. Thank you for joining us today. If you enjoyed the episode, follow us on your favorite podcast platforms, rate us, and leave a review.